I'm streaming later today, but I'm recording this now for then because I know that here in the United States we have a very short half-life of attention on mass shootings because they occur so frequently, and we've had another one, a particularly noteworthy one this time, because very much like the Christchurch shooting, which seems to have inspired it, it was racially motivated and live streamed to social media. This only happened a few hours ago, and at the moment, I don't know any more than what you could find on this by just Googling Buffalo, New York, mass shooting. Some kid, I think he was 18, went into a grocery store with a rifle and body armor and a head-mounted camera that he used to live stream a mass shooting to Twitch. Killed 10, he's in custody now. Which is good. Tempting as it is to say that you wish that he died there, I think it's more expedient for all of us that they go through the criminal justice process. I didn't mean to hit that button. Not to show them mercy, but in fact because it prolongs the attention that we give to the circumstances which led to the shooting. And that's what I want to talk about. I'm going to scroll down this news article right here where you can find, if you are at all curious, plenty of horrific details about the nature of the shooting, to the section that I'm interested in. A 106-page online manifesto, of course, believed to have been uploaded by the shooter, explained that he was motivated by a conspiracy theory that white people are being replaced by other races. In the document, he says he is 18 years old and a self-described white supremacist and anti-Semite. Oh, well, there you go. Look, they make it easy for us. If there's one thing, this is a quote, if there's one thing I want you to get from these writings, it's that the white birth rate must change. Every day the white population becomes fewer in number, the document says. To maintain a population, the people must achieve a birth rate that reaches replacement fertility in the Western world, 2.06 births per woman. The manifesto has not been published publicly. I'm sure it's available somewhere, but I wasn't able to find it in the Googling that I did before turning the record button on. And to be honest with you, in 106 pages, you're probably going to find a whole lot of psychosis and a whole little of worthwhile analytical material. So, another great replacement mass shooting. Not to be, not a big surprise, I don't think, considering the language used so frequently in Republican circles. There was that big New York Times study done recently indicating that Tucker Carlson talks about the Great Replacement Theory just about every damn broadcast he does these days, about how Democrats are bringing in Mexicans and yada yada to, replace the white people or whatever. He uses coded language, but it is the Great Replacement Theory. It is a white nationalist conspiracy theory. I've talked about the arguments behind it a million times. Anyone who's watched my content should feel, I think, reasonably comfortable debunking the arguments made by these people. They want to go into the Kalergi plan, or they want to talk about, immigrant violence or blah, blah, blah. We've gone over all of it. But the reason I want to talk about this now is because I want to impugn more people than many would impugn after seeing something like this. Look, only a very small fraction of conservatives in the United States are going to look at a mass shooting, in this case, a live-streamed mass shooting in which a white boy drove hours, that's what the police said, to go to a grocery store in a completely different neighborhood and shoot a bunch of people. A very small fraction of conservatives will look at it and go, haha, great. Maybe more than we'd like, but a very, very, very small fraction. However, a large number of conservatives, not necessarily a majority, but a worryingly large amount, I think, will look at something like that and they will employ a rhetorical tactic, maybe internally, they'll think it in their head, rather than say it, which is really, really common when stuff like this happens and people are, well, maybe not on the fence, but closer to the fence than they ought to be. They'll think something like, that is terrible. Nobody should ever do something like that. But I can understand where the anxieties of that young man were coming from. Haven't you heard that from conservatives, a lot? Like, when a bad thing happens, some hate crime or whatever, you'll get this well, of course that was bad, but, what's driving all these young men to feeling so anxious about the future of white people in the United States? I think Tucker Carlson's even done that before. You know, maybe not necessarily with regards to mass shootings, but when you talk about something like racism or sexism, there's always this, well, I disavow, however, you know, you can see where people are feeling a little bit. No, I can't, actually. Well, I can understand why, but I disagree with the motivations. I don't wish to be uncharitable here, you know. I don't even think, the number of conservatives who feel that way on a conscious, deliberate level, I think, is quite small. But I do feel like that underlying justification is pretty common. You saw a ton of it. Here's a great example, okay? You saw a ton of it when hate crimes were committed against Muslim refugees in Europe during the Syrian refugee crisis. It was everywhere in conservative spaces. You know, somebody would kill some migrants, or there'd be some hate crime or some, just whatever. And conservatives would go, oh, of course that's bad. But, you can't blame men in Europe for being anxious about the state of affairs. You got this with the socioeconomic anxiety with Trump as well, like, oh, well, I disagree with them voting for Trump, but, people are feeling really anxious about. It's not exactly the same, that last example, but I think they all kind of point to, well, I disavow, but mentality. Which, to be fair, you see this all over the place. It's not exclusive to conservatives. How many lefties have you seen, like, when something bad happens to a police officer? People on the left, oh, well, that's bad. But, you see it pretty often. Though, to be fair, people on the left tend to be a little bit more outward and open about their derision, because it tends to target people based on their wealth and their professions, and the right tend to target people based on their religion and race and ethnicity, which I think is quite a bit worse for reasons that I hope are obvious. I'm getting off on a tangent right now, and I don't mean to, because this is quite serious. I want to be clear about something, okay? This right here, this live streaming a mass shooting at a mostly black supermarket, okay? This is the future that you have to look forward to, all right? This stochastic terrorism is a deliberate product of conservative strategy. If you think that's not the case, then I encourage you to look up, oh, God, I don't know. It's this crazy little group, the Nazis, all right? The government, or at least powerful media figures, stoke fear, a apocalyptic fear. It's always apocalyptic from conservatives, isn't it, It's never just, we have issues with how the government's being run. It's America is being destroyed by migrants. America is being destroyed by immigration. America is being destroyed by the... And they go on and on. Everything's an apocalyptic level threat. So you're surprised then that their followers, their acolytes, would respond to it as though it was an apocalyptic threat? Driving to go just kill a bunch of black people live on Twitch? It's an intended outcome, or at the very least, an expected one. And this is the future we have to look forward to. It serves a number of political purposes for conservatives. It makes people live in fear. It terrorizes them. It galvanizes support, among other the crazy far right types who might go for something like that. This language of dehumanization, followed by stochastic terrorism, followed by state crackdowns, is a common one in many authoritarian governments where action is being pursued against minority groups. Now, I don't think that Republicans are going to take power and just Thanos snap genocide all black people or whatever. There are a couple other outcomes they would probably prefer to the elimination of that potential source of free labor. But I do think that Republicans, either consciously or unconsciously, either want to live in or support the creation and maintenance of a white supremacist state, and that the ongoing terror of black people is just kind of a component of that. Think back during the Jim Crow days, black folk were getting lynched all over the place. And I bet you a lot of white Southern conservatives were like, oh, well, I don't necessarily agree with that, but you can't blame people for being concerned, that sort of thing. Whatever, I've made my point. I'm ranting. I want people to understand this isn't lone wolf bullshit, okay? This great replacement, this didn't come from nowhere. This person watched Tucker Carlson segments, consumed far-right propaganda online, something. This comes from places, and it motivates people to behave in this way. And it's going to continue to do so. Unless something is done. So hopefully something gets done. I think people should be able to attend, get their goddamn grocery shopping done without their murders being live streamed.